Live, but I've had some technical difficulties the last couple of days. Yesterday was with a different streaming source than what you're seeing me on right now. And it does say I'm live, so let me make sure that you can hear me before I get going too far into this. And if I have to take a moment to drink some water or take a breath, thank you for your patience. I haven't been feeling my best today. All right. So let me make sure. Great. All right, you can hear me. Awesome. Okay, so if you were joining me yesterday, I was in the middle of trying to walk you through using Claude and a little bit of Copilot in order to take a Jupyter notebook and markdown file based repo and make it into a very nice, usable, user-friendly okay, uh, way for someone to go through the repo. And that repo is related to my Python Basics Bootcamp. Now, for those of you who may not know me, my name is Cassandra, aka the Prosperous Heart. I am a software engineer and architect who loves to teach, and I love empowering other people for greater success by breaking down what I know into bite-sized pieces. And so this boot camp teaches people the basics of Python and leverages GitHub so that they get used to collaborating with other people and doing open source work and then growing from there. In my mentoring, monthly mentoring it's not class, event, I don't know, whatever the word is, I am going to be not only continuing to support people who want to have like a little bit more of a hands-on mentor with their code, but I'm also going to be sharing information on how to kind of step out of the coder's lane and help support actual development of software design and things like that. So as I mentioned, what I tried to do yesterday was to walk you through some things to migrate from the repo that it was to what it's going to be and kind of give you an introduction to mkdocs. Unfortunately, the software that I was using yesterday to stream didn't stream. It just gave you a white screen. And so I talked for I don't know how long. So hopefully that will not be the case today. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. And if you'll give me a moment to make sure that even though I see it on the screen, that you're actually able to see it. Okay, great, you are. All right, so what you're seeing, I'm gonna have to backtrack just a little bit. I decided not to clean this up, but basically I'm using Claude and I'm also using Copilot. I mentioned yesterday something called CodeGuard. That's something that Cisco developed from their security and trust organization and made it an open source, basically guardrail for helping people to use AI more safely. It helps to when AI is generating code to make sure that it has, more security guidelines in it. I watched not really making a video, but they basically took the OAuth cheat sheets and drilled them down into about like 20 or so rules. And those rules, excuse me, are what are used for that. So yesterday, one of the things that I explained is that this was originally written in, I don't know, I guess you can call it traditional Python, where it used requirements and requirements-dev files in order to set up your environment. I also talked about how I originally was using virtual env wrapper-win, which I absolutely loved, but I'm moving more into UV. There are things about UV that I don't understand and somehow work in a way that they're not supposed to. So I don't get into everything about UV just yet, but I am going to share with you what I do now that doesn't cause the issues that I just mentioned. So I am basically what I did was I started it out in Claude. I used the paid version of Claude. I don't know what it looks like for the non-paid version. I use this when I went through a specifications driven development workshop about a month or so ago. And I've been growing that information sense. So basically, what I said is, hey, this repo needs to transition from the current virtual environment setup to UV. I never want it to use UV pip install, only UV add. I am also only going to, or excuse me, also going to be leveraging mkdocs. So I want you to create a new markdown file in the said location folder, explaining how to take any repo and make it a UV project. Write it in such a way that is easy to follow with additional links for more information. When you are prompting an AI, especially when you're doing things like this, you really want to give it as much information that makes sense for what you need. You need to give it guidelines. You need to say, hey, I need you to have it output this information. I need you to have it do X, Y, Z. Be kind. As I mentioned yesterday, while I don't think AI like this is going to be like Terminator level problems, um, there are things happening in the AI space that are very concerning. And so it is in everyone's best interest to just be kind to the technology and just kind of speak to them nicely. I have also heard that there is mm, some things that I have seen where there's a different output given when you are nice to the AI versus not nice. So there's also other reasons for that, like for how you might deal with humans in general. So that's another topic for another day. But I try to be nice to the AI. I try to say please and thank you. If nothing else, just to reinforce that because I work from home, and so it's very easy to slip into just here's this information and not have that human interaction with actual humans. So it did its thing. It looked through what I had. It read some patterns. It started to write a markdown file that I wasn't quite happy with. I read through it, I think very briefly, maybe even not. Nope, I read through some of it. And eventually, I said the prior work was great, but I want it to be efficient, minimize duplication, because I noticed that it was copying things that were in other files. Like I think it copied what was in the requirements-dev files. I don't want that. What happens if those files are changed or I delete them or whatever? So I told it that. It then rewrote it. And just for time's sake, I went ahead and just accepted it as was. And then I started to try to walk you through the process from that document. That would be this one right here. So I had already mentioned, I guess on the call yesterday, that I had already installed it, so I didn't need to run any of this information. I did pip install UV because for some reason it wasn't installed anymore. I think I've been transitioning and testing some stuff. So pip install UV, tested it, it's working. Um, there is a .vnv that was there before, technically two. And I was explaining yesterday that originally this was in virtual env wrapper -win. And while I love it, there I had made some changes that no longer made that a viable option unless I completely deleted and recreated it, which isn't a big deal. But I didn't remember exactly what was already installed. So I leveraged GenAI again and told them what I was trying to do, and it pulled in that information for me. And basically, all that was really there was some PyTest stuff, some some linters, and Jupyter Notebook. So I put those in the requirements files, and that's where we're at. So now that we're back on course, excuse me. Um, like I said, I went through and I started to review what was actually in this document. And when we got to, we initialized UV, so UV init. And what that did, which I explained yesterday, but unfortunately, again, it created the main.py file in my main folder, which is just very simple Python script. It created my PyProject TOML file. I updated the description. It added, it looks like that might be it. So it did whatever it says that UV does when it does UV init. And then the next things that it started to try to say were to basically add in the dependencies. Now, what it had here, this looks like it's more for Linux. It did, when it got into Windows, this is what I was looking for, UV add and UV add dash dash dev. The dash dash dev, it puts in a different location, which I'll show you in just a second. But I had, it's my understanding from UV that before you do that, you wanted to actually be in the virtual environment. And so I said, hey, I'm following the tutorial you gave me. Seems to be an issue after I do XYZ. There's no such initialize. And it said that I didn't do anything wrong, which is great. I still don't really trust that because my memory says otherwise. So, I will go look at the UV stuff later. Um, but it just basically said, did make a mistake. Here's what's happening, explained it, and then basically said, you can go ahead and keep doing what you'd like to do. Let's see. Yeah, we're going to skip that. So, all right. So these are the steps that it was moving to. So the init, the add, and again, I don't know why it's not doing that. So I'm not going to do that. I'm going to go into my CMD and I am going to, you know what? I'm actually going to do something a little bit different. So again, UV is from Astral. And when you come in here, there's a lot of stuff here, but basically, if you are looking to just get started, so here's your first steps. Oh, man. Okay, so creating and working on projects. So again, you're in UV init. If you don't add this here, it just puts it to the current local file, excuse me, local project folder. It creates these files if they're not already there. And then you can run it. So like UV run main. So again, if I were to do that, UV run main, you'll see that it's running the Python interpreter. It's creating a virtual environment initially, right? So that .venv is there, and it's printing out what's in that basic item. So .venv has been created. I didn't have to do anything. And if you look at the TOML file, nothing's really changed. However, if we follow along with what the Claude had said and what is here, right, UV add, it doesn't say anything about starting that up. So I'm just going to go ahead and do that. So UV add, but this time instead of doing it by the modules, excuse me, I'm going to do the -r just like you would if you were doing the pip install -r. I can't remember what it stands for, but basically it's reading in this file, requirements.txt, and you're going to see that it's adding those dependencies here. Going through, resolving the packages. This will take a minute because it's getting all the packages that it needs for that virtual environment, which I am still not convinced that it's not going to install on the local machine. But again, I'm still learning UV myself. It is a newer tool, and I've been perfectly happy with the the virtual UV wrapper.win or -win. So it's just new, and as I learn more, I will be sharing. All right, so it's just finishing up the packages. Excuse me. Oh goodness, I don't know about you, but this weather it's done a number on me. I'm in Texas and it's very cold, and I don't like the cold. I'm not made for the cold. All right, I've seen this On I don't think I've seen it every time I've done UV, but at least on my personal machine, which recently I've actually added additional hard drive to my laptop. And so I've been moving things over to that side because the other hard drive is just basically maxed out. So I think this has to do with that, but I'm not 100% sure. Haven't really dove into it yet. So we can see that all these things were added. The only thing in the TOML file is the dependencies. If we come to pip list, please, please, please. Yes. All right, so it did not install. That's wonderful. I don't know what I did before for it to install. Maybe I did UV pip install. Maybe that's why it did it. I don't know, but that's one of many reasons why I do the UV add. So it's not in my local machine. If I were to .vnv/scripts /activate and then pip list, it's not there. Cool. So that is still something I am actively figuring out. All right, so we have added the dependencies as I mentioned before. And this time we're going to do UV add -r. I think it's --dev after that. And not yet. All right. We will go back to Claude because Claude had that in there. Actually, I think it had it in here even. Yeah, add --dev and then the package name. All right, so we'll go back to this. So UV add --dev because we're saying these are the developer or development things. They're not going to go into production. -r requirements -dev because that is the file that I'm putting that in. And you'll see that it will start to add all of the things to the dependency group for dev for that are in the requirements -dev file. Right? Oh, oh. All right, so Flake 8 depends on PyFlakes and Basics Bootcamp depends on 7.3. Depends on PyFlakes 3.01. Your project requires. Okay, so what this is saying, because Flake 8 7.3.0, this one, depends on PyFlakes, which is 3.4.0. I'm not sure how this passed in GitHub CI/CD if that's the case. So what we can do, is this best practice? Probably not. Lots of reasons, lots of reasons, pros and cons to do this. Just for sake of time, I'm just going to take those off and run this again. Oh no. All right. So PyTest Python path depends on PyTest do PyTest yada yada 9.0.1 depends on PyTest less than PyTest-Python path. All right. This is so interesting because I didn't have any of these issues when I was working with this earlier this month, or I guess last month. It's not December. Okay, it's working now, which is great. So cool thing is that this will help make sure that you are not using versions that are going to be incompatible, which is fantastic. And you can see now that it is adding it to the file. I really like that it would start to add it and then removed it when it realized, oh, can't do that. That was really nice. So Astral, if you guys are ever watching this, great job. Beautiful stuff. All right, so it has finished. And we now have the PyProject TOML set up. And I believe that's all we need to do for this right now because all that's in here is Jupyter notebooks and markdown files. um, so my next part here, we're going to go back to Claude, and we're going to let it know that we want to do make docs, which is not part of this yet. I actually commented it out because I wanted to go through this with you to show you kind of what this looks like. Now, once you have the TOML file, you can delete the requirements files. I'm likely going to keep them. I haven't made that decision yet, just for teaching purposes for the bootcamp. But you can get rid of them once you have the TOML file if you're using UV, because again, it's all right there for you. So we're going to actually clear this, reset, and we're going to take a step back and we're going to say, oh, actually, oh, I think it's resume. Yes. Oh. Okay. These are not the things I'm looking for. Okay, we'll just start over. It's fine. So I want you to review this repo. I want to leverage mkdocs to be able to view the Markdown and Jupyter. Man, it's hard to do this with a headache. Jupyter Notebook. I want to leverage mkdocs to be able to view the Markdown and Jupyter Notebook. Notebooks. Please provide a guide on the steps I need to take and what mkdocs plugins to use so that they can run the Jupyter notebooks in the browser. Because I have seen this on my journey, I have not been able to use it, so I'm very excited. We are going to be learning this together. In the summary, please provide a suggested navigation for ease of use. We'll just leave it at that. I have other things I want to say, but we'll just see what Claude says about this. So let's move forward. I don't think I have any. Okay. So as you can see, it's looking through the patterns, seeing what files are there. It's running some general search commands. And one thing that I want to make sure that I say on this stream as well is that when you're co-creating projects with AI, while it may seem better to just say, hey, for this session or for all time, just always allow for this command to happen, that can get you in trouble. I have seen on more than one occasion where people have done something like that. And then when I look at the code review, I am shocked, I tell you, about some of the things that I see. Now, it could be that they just don't know, for example, because in unit tests, they may just not know. Maybe they've never done unit tests before and they're just, running these things, and maybe PyTest comes off as, hey, there's no problems. But when you start seeing things like a try except block inside of a unit test, or um, creating instances of things multiple times in a single unit test, it makes you wonder what's going on, right? So I would highly recommend not allowing it to just automatically do stuff. Certain things, maybe, like if you know for a fact that if a line is just reading a file, for example, you could probably do that. But I've already heard horror stories of people who have done things like that, who just said, "Hey, do whatever you want." And I have heard, don't know how true it is, but I have heard that at least one person had their whole drive erased. I don't know how that happens unless you give it full access to do whatever it wants. Because usually, at least with Claude, it's and actually both Claude and Copilot say, "Hey, I want to run this. Are you cool with it?" And they'll try to run it. Which with Copilot, it's a little difficult because it tries to do PowerShell and it's not always right. So I don't. I just tend to not let them do it. I'd rather, first of all, muscle memory, so I'll do it myself. And second, I usually want to know what it's doing if they're running commands I'm not aware of. So this is still not what I was expecting. So Claude doesn't always, sometimes it does, but it doesn't always put its stuff in a file to start. And this is one of those times. So it has this guide. And I was more hoping for an actual markdown file. Yes, I want it to do number 1. Yeah, we're just gonna start with number 1 first. No. Those are great, and I would like for that to be an option, but I still need the markdown file of the content you just provided. Please put in the docs guidelines folder, and we'll just have that do it. So it should create the markdown file from there. That way we can look at it side by side and make sure that we are doing the steps that we want. I am fairly familiar with mkdocs. I've been leveraging it as in my support for PyTexas. If you're not aware, PyTexas is a nonprofit organization where we basically bring together Pythonistas across Texas. We have several meetups across the state. We also have an upcoming conference, which, oh my gosh, if there's 5 days left. 5 days left if you want to submit your proposal to speak at the conference in April. It's in Austin. It's amazing. And again, you have 5 days because the call for proposals closes on December 7th at like 10:59 Central, I think. So just go to pytexas.org. In fact, let me just do this. It is pytexas.org. There you go. Slash 2026. So this will give you information about the conference that's happening in April. And at the very top, there's a banner that talks about the CFP. Click on that. And if you have never done a CFP before, there should be a link on there. If not, let me know. Written by Mason. Mason is, I think he's the president of the foundation. I'm not sure what his official title is. And he's also a Python fellow. So he wrote how he writes a CFP if you need that information. Okay, so it's asking, make directory. Do you want to do this? I'm going to say, I'm just going to say yes because I've paid for this. So one thing, depending upon what I'm using, if it's Copilot, Claude, whatever, Copilot, I currently have the free one. And if it's going to do something like that, I don't want to waste the cycles. So I will just take that, do what I need to do, and then let it know how many steps ahead it needs to move forward in that process. Okay, so here's the guide. Yes, that's fine. And so now we should have this guide right here. Okay. So this is saying that we're going to need the mkdocs-material to give us a responsive theme, mkdocs-Jupyter, which allows them to display the notebooks, literate nav, for navigation management and making section pages clickable here. There may be other plugins, but we'll just see what happens with this. I'm not using Sphinx. This is another option for viewing. Okay, so I am not going to be doing pip install because again, we are using UV add. And so let's see what we've got here. I've made the guide, includes this. You can now reference this guide. Okay. Yes. So instead of me typing all this and copy pasting, please run UV add for all of the suggested dependencies. So it'll do its thing. It's razzmatazz. And so now it shows mkdocs, which is the main one, mkdocs-material, Jupyter, literate nav, section index. Now it's got a few others that it's mentioned here. I don't know why it's having --dev. Jupyter Light integration. Okay. Okay, so if you don't know why it's doing something, because it has --dev here, this doesn't make sense to me because this is supposed to be part of the actual main portion. So I'm going to say, why is --dev at the end of your command? Is it not? And I ask it. I don't tell it unless I know for a fact that it's wrong. But maybe I'm wrong on this one. Maybe for some reason it has to be in the dev portion because I have no idea. So let's ask. Is it not for the production side of this repo? So we're going to see what it says. I'm absolutely right. It says that a lot, and sometimes I don't feel like I'm absolutely right, and when I ask questions, I'm not always absolutely right. So that's why it's important as for you as the human to make sure that you are asking questions and not just assuming that the AI is correct. Okay, so I am correct though. It should not be in dependencies for development, needed for production setup. So now they want to run the same thing just without the --dev. So this looks do the same. And you can always remove them, but I think it's UV remove, I think. So now I'm ready to proceed. I think that looks good. So now it is adding that to the UV, which you'll see that, oh, look at all that. They are now added here in the dependencies of the project Toml file. Once this is done and I get an initial mkdocs website up just so you can see what it looks like when it's initially set up, I'm probably going to disengage from this call. And I'll make more on this later, but I just want to let you to see what the process is, how this works, and how you can leverage, again, AI for what you're trying to do. So it's still working through having those added. Now, if you're not aware, mkdocs is something, as I mentioned earlier, that creates a static site, and it uses GitHub pages to host that site. So one thing that you can do to make it super easy for yourself is once it's created, it will provide you the actual URL that it goes to. I think it's like github.com/username/repo something. You'll see it. And then you can actually take that and put it into the repo itself in the URL description. And I'll show you how to do that as well before we disengage for the evening. Okay, no chat just yet. All right. Still working, still working. I know, it's kind of boring. When I do this with my students, I try to make sure that what I'm doing is very efficient for them. So that way, instead of necessarily, depending on what we're doing, if it's not live, I want to make sure that I have like screenshots and we're not wasting time. Um, but for something like this, that I'm just again behind the scenes showing you what I do and how it works. Okay, so it's just saying all the dependencies have been installed, gives me their versions, which you can see through here, and their dependencies, which do not show up here, but they are installed in the virtual environment. Saying everything will be included, which by the way, if you were to download this onto your local machine, you would just do UV sync and it would do some fancy, wonderful things, and you wouldn't even have to do all what I'm showing right now. Access documentation site. Next up is the configuration file. Okay, so let's go back to the setup guide. And this is what it's thinking that my mkdocs.yaml file should be. It's giving the name, description, author, the URL, which I'll be updating it in a little bit, your repo name, your URL, your edit URI, which these are all by default. Whatever you can, I don't think you should change it unless you know what you're doing. This is telling it what it wants in the theme and the features that it's going to have. There's actually several that are missing that I likely will be adding later. I only know because Markdown extensions need to update. Now, this is a navigation that it's going to create. You're going to see home, getting started, week 1, week ooh, week 1, week 2. Okay, that's very weird to me that the color looks that way. It makes me think that maybe there is something else going on, but it could just be the weird discoloration. So week 1 should show up on the navigation bar, as should this, homework. Oops, what is going on? That was weird. So all of those will be like the top line of your site, and these things will show up depending upon how it's graded on the left. So we'll go ahead and move forward with that. So I'm just going to say, let's do it, and just let Claude do its thing. So I could have just copied, pasted this, put the YAML file in there and been done. But again, I'm leveraging AI to kind of save me some time. Would it have been faster? Probably. Because again, I'd just be copy pasting. But maybe there's other stuff that it's going to find and want to add to it. I don't know what it could be, but it might. So one thing to note is that when you do UV add, a UV lock is created automatically, and it just keeps all that stuff together for you. All the information for installing and all that, it's done automatically. And I think, yeah, that's it. Okay. So now it shows you the file, which looks basically exactly the same as what's here. It has the URL automatically, so that's one thing that I didn't have to go and search for, and this looks correct. I don't know why I gave you the wrong one or the other one before, but this looks right. And it might have updated a few other things, but we're just going to leave it as is. So yes. Now it's making its YAML file, which is this right here. It's on the main project root. And then once this is done, creating necessary index.md files. So what this is referring to is, I think it's going to be in the docs folder, but that index.md file is what is used as like the home page for your mkdocs site. And so you could leverage it as like a table of contents. You could just leverage it as a welcome. It's up to you, but we'll just see what Claude decides to do with it. So yeah, so it's in docs getting started /index, or it will be in a moment when it decides that it's ready for me to go, yes, you may do this. Oh, wait a minute. Week 1 /index. It may be writing this doc. Right, week 1 -index. Is that coming here? No. Week 2 /index. Oh, this is one thing I really don't like about Claude. It scrolls up to weird places. So this is a little concerning that it's saying that it's writing these things. Maybe it's, oh, come on now. Okay, so maybe, and again, still learning Claude myself. So maybe it's prepping this. Maybe this is adding it to its to-do list, but it says that it's creating them, but nothing is being created. So let me just refresh this. Maybe it's just not showing up yet. Nope, it's not there. The other thing about mkdocs is that if you don't have all of your markdown files or anything else in that docs folder, you have to do some special things to make that work. And I've totally forgot to yeah, I don't want to copy that. Please create a new file that explains what the site is. Also, what are the necessary steps and possible packages to install to make sure that the files in week 1, no, is it this way? Week? In a week. Oh no. Did it end? Crap. I bet it disconnected. Is it working? Am I still live? I don't think I'm still live. Oh, I'm still live. Sorry for the cursing. It doesn't say that I'm live right now. That is frustrating. Okay, well. All right. That's super strange. So what happened was I have a keyboard that has ooh, a sleep and awake function right here, right by my backspace. And this happens, unfortunately, all the time, where it will hit the sleep and it just brought everything down. But the weird thing is that it doesn't say that I'm live anymore, but I just saw that I was live on my phone. So I'm going to finish this out and hopefully you are still able to watch this. Again, I'm really sorry about the cussing. All right, so let's bring my screen back up so we can finish this out. All right, I'm going to trust. I'm not going to trust. Am I still live? All right, let's try this one more. Okay, so it is still showing. All right. Okay, so let's wrap this up. So in the files in week 1, again, I don't know why this didn't show up. We're just going to do it that way. And week 3. Also, what are the necessary steps and possible packages to install to make sure that the files in week 1, week 2, week 3 are able to be seen since they are outside the docs folder. All right. Okay, so now it's asking to do the getting started. I'll go ahead and accept that. So that will be that folder right here. All right, so now it looks like this is, okay, that's the index. So again, just for time's sake, I'm going to assume that I've already looked through it and that I'm good with it. So the index looks like this. So far, so good. It does have Mac, there's Windows, Mac, Windows, Linux, verifying installation, set up your environment. This is not necessary. So I'm probably gonna get rid of a whole bunch of this when I actually tweak the site. Wait, why? They already have a README. I'm okay with that. I am absolutely okay with this. Okay, great, beautiful. This is actually wrong. I've done this whole boot camp, all quote unquote 3 weeks of it in an hour. So this is just an estimation. It's not always right. And it also depends on the person themselves, like how fast they can go through it, how hard it might be for them to grasp and actually implement the homework. Okay, so I'm good with this. It even has, does it have the link to the homework? Or just, yeah, okay, so it has everything in here that this one did. It just doesn't have that image that I saw. So I'm going to say, looks great, but please include the image from the original README of that folder and do so for all future once. We'll see how that works. Mm. Okay, so it's wanting to change the getting started index. Why? Ah, yes, perfect. I'm good with that. Yep. So now it's going to add in that image, which is lovely. Over to week 1, which is the only thing about this that may not work right out the box, which again, because I have a headache and we've already been on here for a lot longer than I intended, this likely isn't going to work because again, that week 1 folder is outside of the docs folder. So this may require some tweaking, which I may or may not do on a live, but I am going to get done because as I mentioned, this is my bootcamp repo that I want to make sure that people get what they need to be successful. Okay, so it is still working. In the mkdocs and reference files out to the docs folder, you just have to update the mkdocs YAML file. Oh, it does? Ooh, let's look at that. Okay, so in the mkdocs YAML file, inside, it says that there's something in here that I do not see, and I can't remember what it's called, but it basically says where it's seeing things so it can have access to it. Because written this way, at least when I did this before, it sees that this folder is within the docs folder, and I don't see where this would indicate that higher level access. So I'm not convinced that it has everything it needs, which is fine. Okay. So now okay. From my experience, that is not true. So if that is true, I'm curious how what I did before made it not work and had to be like super one-off special. That's true. Okay, great. So it seems like there's nothing extra that needs to happen, at least in this rendition. We'll see when we actually render everything. So now it's adding inside the docs index. Looks like it may actually. We're just gonna let it update. Oh, I see what it did. It added index to this main one right here. So this is likely going to be like the main root page, as it were. So this is what people will see. They'll learn about the boot camp, expectations, yada yada. It looks like this took a lot of the information from those Jupyter notebooks, which is beautiful, and just kind of put it all together. Yep. Okay, great. So I like it. It looks good. It's still working its things here. All right, so now it's done the mkdocs file structure. So this is a file that it has outlined. Docs guidelines? Sure. I'm okay with that because you can have these files here in the repo and not actually have it in the mkdocs. So I'm okay with having that file in there. And what is found on the mkdocs site is this part right here in your navigation. So again, if you don't have it in your navigation, you're not going to see it on the static website. All right, so yes, please go ahead and keep making those files. And you'll see that on occasion, it gives you a recap as to what it's done. So it made my main landing page. It updated the image for this one that I'd already made. It made this guide explaining, how everything works, which again, this is more likely not going to be on that actual page because again, this is a bootcamp. Some key points on things for mine, which all of these are known to me. Okay. All right, so now it is wanting to write week 1 to, and there should be a third one. So while it saves time, it also creates space to keep waiting. So instead of me typing all this out, which would have taken a very long time, I'm now stuck waiting maybe a couple minutes at a time. Maybe not even a couple minutes. I haven't timed it, but it feels like it's forever. Waiting on it to do its next pieces. And actually, it looks like it's no, it's still, let's see, Control T to show my to-dos. I did do that, right? Oh, it looks like it's locked up. Okay. Yeah, it's locked up. Oh, maybe it's not locked up. It just won't let me type. Okay. So now this is, and show the to-do. Great. Finish that. Creating necessary files, setting up for interactive notebooks. Okay. So these are the steps that are left to do. And again, for time's sake, I'm just going to assume that what is there is what I need. So I'm letting it go ahead and write that file. This is for week 2, I believe. Yep. So write that file. This is for week 3, I'm sure. Claude, come on. Yeah, week 3. And then this index is for tutorials. Okay. So yeah, so I have a section to attempt to support my students with tutorials. Not very many right now, but there will likely be more. And this one is Docs Interactive. Okay, yeah, keep that one. Okay, so now it has gone through, it's made the files. Getting on my last nerve. Come on, Claude. Oh my word. All right. So it's done all that stuff. I wrote those files. It is wanting to make a directory. See, now though, it's copying content into that. And that's not, why are we trying to duplicate the files? Why can we not just use them where they are? Why are we, no, please answer my question. It really, really wants to do this, but I'm not okay with that. Please explain what you're trying to do. Okay. So we already have the files. There's your location, renders notebooks, static HTML pages, notification needed. For interactive execution, which is what I want, needs to build a complete Jupyter environment, requires notebooks and specific structure, creates a standalone web app that runs the Python in the browser. The copy is temporary just for building the interactive lab. Okay. Okay. Hmm. Okay. So two options. Skip Jupyter Lite, which is simpler, but can't execute them, which that defeats the whole purpose. If we keep it Jupyter Lite, it builds an interactive environment where users can run them directly in the browser, modify and experiment with notebooks, no local Python installation needed. And it's just for the build process. The original files stay where they are. If the files stay where they are, how will the environment be updated if and when I change the original notebooks? Okay. So similar to how mkdocs build works, it has source files. The build command reads the source files and generates the interactive site. The output is the built interactive environment. Okay. After editing this, Jupyter Lite build, yada yada, content, this rebuilds. I like that. However, yes, I do want to rebuild both. Build reads originals. Would you like to set Jupyter Lite with this rebuild workflow? Skip Jupyter now. What is the difference between 1 and 3? So the reason I did that is because I do want to do the first one because that's great. It has to happen for the goal that I have. And then the number 3 is create automation to make rebuilding easier. That could be something along the lines of CI/CD within GitHub Actions. Maybe there's something else specifically with the make file, which I do have one, I believe. I do. Um, in order to run this, you have to do something specific, and I'm still learning makefiles myself. So I don't want to steer you wrong on this, but basically, it's a way to make some shortcut functions so that way you can run them. So, like if I wanted to run lint, it would run these things for me. Same thing with format and test. And so I'm sure it's probably going to add something to this to make that work. All right, so no, I don't want that. No, did I choose the wrong one? I didn't. Why would it say that? You did not address the options I asked for. You gave me an option to, we're just going to copy and 3. These in mind. So again, AI is not perfect, and it has been a very humbling experience to realize that when I feel I'm very explicit, apparently sometimes I am not. All right, so this is saying SubJupyterLite, every time you have to notebook, you manually run this. That's not quite what that was saying either, because it's not automated. Yes. All right. I prefer convenience. Perfect. So we're going to set up automation. So we'll see what it does. It's probably a makefile. It would probably also be good for you to tell it that you're on whatever platform you're on. Jupyter build, contents week 1, contents week 2, week 3, output directory, docs Jupyter. So I'm going to proceed. So it's making that virtual environment, as it were. Oh, did it fail? Let's see what we got. Come on. Okay, so it couldn't run that. Why couldn't it run that? Is that installed? Python Jupyter. Yeah. Okay. Oh, wait, no. Okay. I believe it can't do that because it's trying to run it. That's right. You need to use UV when running commands because we're running with UV. So so because that Jupyter is not installed locally, like outside of that UV environment, it cannot do what it's trying to do. So now it has UV run Jupyter blah, 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 blah. So that should work. Content, output. Yeah. So let's see. That's more promising. Oh, yeah. Let's see if this helps any. Okay, so it is doing its thing. It's building its stuff. Jupyter Light has a whole lot of stuff in it. Oh my word. It is late. I did not expect this to take so long. But such is programming, right? It's just unfortunate I have a headache. Be sure to drink your water, especially in the cold. All right, so it's reading my make file. All right, excellent. Jupyter built successfully. Make file is about to be updated. We shall see we shall see about that. Let me read this file right here. I'm sorry. Oh, so now we see how it wants to edit it. So instead of changing this .phony, I'm sorry, not instead of, it's going to add to these things, docs-build, docs-serve, and docs-clean. So this is basically saying these are the shortcuts to things that you're going to run. So help is here, right? You'll see that down here that when that is run, it's going to build that information, and this is going to explain when someone does help what those things do. So yes, I want that. It's already updated. It's now adding in the docs build, serve, and make portions. Those look correct to me. If we run Jupyter, okay. Yeah. All right, so now let's do a quick reference guide, and we're going to test the site. We're almost there. Hooray! I'm very excited about this because, like I said, I've only recently in the last few weeks heard about being able to use Jupyter notebooks actively in a website. So I'm very excited to test this out because it would make it a lot easier for people to play around with Python without the fear of doing something wrong on their machine. Now, can you break your machine by installing Python? I mean, you might give yourself permissions that could cause you problems if you're on Windows. I don't think it does the same for Linux and Mac, but I could be wrong. So, again, my boot camp, the information you get in boot camp is things you can find online. It's just me taking the information and breaking it down into small bite-sized pieces, and giving the opportunity for people to work with me. And when I say work with me, I mean, hey, if you've got questions about this boot camp, if you've got, a code review that you want done, like it's part of the program. So by doing this, it makes it a little bit easier for people to kind of play around with it before they decide to invest their time in learning from me and getting support from me. Okay. So now it has this file, which again, for sake of time, I'm going to just assume that it's correct. So now it's going to make that file, which is in guidelines mkdocs flow right here. Nice. All right, so now we're at the point where we are about to prepare our make docs serve. So we're going to, I didn't do build though. why are we not building first? Okay. So what just happened is that this is why you should read your documentation. So for whatever reason, AI decided, okay, we've set all this up and now we're going to try to serve this website. But you can't serve a website when it doesn't exist or when you need to see the changes. So you have to build it first. So this is and it's still not, you need to run UV. You need to use UV run when doing anything for this project. When, I'll just leave it at that. One thing that you can do is, depending upon whatever tool you're using, whether it's Copilot, Claude, whatever, is there are rules that you can have by project, by computer, that you can say, hey, whenever you're doing this, make sure you're writing in a platform independent format. And when you're running commands locally, it should always be with Windows. You can do something like that. And you shouldn't have to make this happen every single time. Oh, it's trying to do make. Uh, hmm. I am on a Windows machine. How would I run make? I think I have to do it in PowerShell. I think there were some things I had to do to make that happen. Oh yeah, I forgot. I already have a tutorial. So that is right here. Make file Windows setup. And right. WSL chocolatey MSYS2. Oh, if you don't want to use make. Okay, so basically I have to create a new Ubuntu. For the make, to use the make anyway. You can see that because of the fact that I'm using VS Code, it did open it up to the current folder. And if you're not sure, you can run ls. So you can see that all those things are here. And so now I can come back to Claude and I could have it do this, or I could run that. Where did it go? Make docs build, which automatically uses UV run. I don't know if that'll work in the WSL though. But we can try it. So wherever that file went, where's that up here? So yeah, so if we come to WSL and we do make docs-build. So UV's not on here. I don't really have it installed on here, and I don't want to spend more time on that. So we're just going to stick with this. UV run Jupyter Light build, contents, output, and UV run make docs build. I don't know that it'll allow me to do that in command line, but we'll try. I should say in Windows command line. It might work in others. Oh, looks like it's working just fine. So this is running those two at the same time, not at the same time, consecutively. So it's currently building the site, and then it will run. I'm sorry, it's currently building the Jupyter environment, and then it will run the build to build the mkdocs site. So that'll take a minute. I'm very excited about this. I know we've been on together for quite a long time, but I'm very excited to hopefully successfully share in this with you. And if not, we'll call it a day and I'll figure it out and I'll come back another day with what happened. But my goal was to get to the point where the mkdocs site was at least mostly built. I may have to go back and tweak and make some changes to those files because I completely just ignored them just for the sake of time. But maybe they are exactly what I need and I can push this out and merge it tomorrow, but we'll see. Or I guess today since it's now after midnight. All right, so we are at functions and modules, input, output. Okay, we're in week 3. And so if you aren't aware of this bootcamp, by the way, it does take you from basics all the way up into reading and writing to files and some other things. It's a step-by-step thing, and each week is basically a cutoff, and it has quote unquote homework, which it's all there. If you want to do it by yourself, by all means. If you want, guidance and all that, please let me know, and we can see if my upcoming bootcamp is for you. So that's interesting. No archive, cleaning site directory. Isn't finding the files outside of docs because expects them to be relative to the docs directory. Need to configure mdocs to look in the root directory. This is what I was talking about earlier. I knew it. Okay. So now it's going to fix the mkdocs YAML configuration. I knew it. See, I told you. You can't trust the AI. There we go. All right. It's going to be, I think, like right around here. Docster, yes. Docster, which doesn't exist. One background task. What's the background task? Set docs directory to root. Yeah, that's what I was expecting. Fantastic. 1. Yep, perfect. Oh, yes. So now that we've done that, we have to change some of the files so that they show in the appropriate places. That looks correct. Yes. Oh, no. Oh, well. Fine. That's fine. I hope that was a good one for Claude. Oh, that's one thing I also don't like about Claude is that sometimes by default you may press the 1 or the 2 and fat finger it, and it just takes it as an automatic thing instead of waiting for an enter. So I don't like that, but it is what it is. All right, so complete the build with warnings about missing files, issues that docs directory, we already talked about that. Default, using symbolic links, yada yada. Okay, so now we are adding in a mkdocs ignore file. Ignoring all these things. Yep, none of those should be added. Agreed. Okay, so yes, I'm going to add that file. And that comes in the root project. All right, yes, so now we are ready to UV run, make docs build clean. Did it finish the other one though? I don't know if it finished. Did you finish the Jupyter build? See, I don't believe you. I don't believe you at all. All right, so we're going to go back. We're going to do this. -- clean. So the -- clean is what, if you think that there might be something weird happening, it's supposed to make it like a clean sweep. UV run, make docs, build, -- clean. Great. Oh, it's fine. Where is this? This is in docs something, I'm sure. Yeah, make docs complete. Okay. So now we have this file in here, which I'm probably going to get rid of because it just tells us what happened. And okay, setup complete. I've installed these things, index files, Jupyter Interactive. And then yes. Actually, I'm not going to do this. Oh, I'm going to do this instead. So instead of doing it in Claude, I'm going to do it in my command line, just to make sure it all runs and there's no weirdness. File not found, Jupyter Lite. Okay. Programming, docs, Jupyter Lite, Jupyter-Lite.json. Okay, so it is there, but for some reason, okay. So I'm going to come back to this. Clear. Please help me understand why I am getting this error. I am on Windows, and you said that it was working. So now we are troubleshooting. Jupyter Light site. Okay. Oh, your syntax was fine. Jupyter Light. Okay, yeah. So there was no site. So that's why I wonder. Hmm. Wonder why. I already know it doesn't exist. So the folder doesn't exist. Oh my goodness. Clean the existing script before building. But why? No, because it doesn't exist. Previous attempts. Okay. And don't lie to me. Okay. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to just get rid of these files. And then we'll run it again. Easy run, light build, contents, yada, yada. Okay. Did it again. All right. That is incorrect. Because I just emptied that folder, then ran. That may not have been what I wanted to do, actually. And had the same issue. All right, so it is way past the time that I thought I would be done with this. And I have a feeling that I'm going to have to be doing more debugging. And since I have had a headache all day and I still have to go to work in the morning, I'm going to call it a night. So this is unfortunately uh, just something that happens when you're coding, especially when you're learning things or things aren't working as you expect them to. So it just happens, and that's okay. But I will be ending this here. So thank you so much for your time. If you are interested in connecting with me, you can find me over at my blog, www.processheart.com, or you can connect with me on LinkedIn and anywhere at Prosperous Heart. You can find me on every social. So if you got questions, looking to learn more about this bootcamp, or simply maybe you just want to learn more about how you can get out of just programming and into more systems design work, please hit me up. I would love to talk with you more about that and see how I might be able to support you. So thank you so much for watching. It is now December 3rd, so Giving Tuesday just happened. I hope you had an opportunity to give to your favorite nonprofits. And again, the CFP for Pi taxes does end in about 4 days. So you have only a few more days left to submit your proposal for the talk that will happen in April in Austin, Texas. All right, thank you so much. Hope you have a wonderful and prosperous rest of your day, and I will see you in the next one. I'm going to go get some headache medicine and I'm going to bed. I'll talk to you probably later today so we can finish up this project and see you then. Bye. Oh, I don't know how to turn this off because it doesn't say that I'm recording. So I don't know if this will end. Okay, bye.